Okay.
Okay. Radhe Radhe everyone. Welcome back after a break. We all had, I think, very intense Viraha Bhav already generated among us. So we should all be super excited. And that's why I think we have a treat today that we have why should we read Bhagavad Gita and what is its role in the scriptural context so I think that's very exciting. So I hand it over to you, Nitinji. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Sandhya. Radhe Radhe. Welcome, everybody. A very warm good morning, good evening to all of you. We're meeting after a little bit of a break. I think it is probably one of the longest break we've ever had since we started this session. So today's session, we are going to spend some time on understanding why do we need to read Bhagavad Gita? How does it grow on us? What is the reason basically? What do we stand to gain out of it? What are some of the common barriers that we have to overcome in order to read this wonderful scripture? So hopefully by the end of this session, we will be able to develop some appreciation for this wonderful opportunity that we have to read this scripture and be able to appreciate what Lord Krishna made accessible to us 5,000 years back. Okay, it's important when we understand the value of something, then we develop more appreciation for it, right? Like in Ramayana, it says, Jane binu hoye na partiti, binu partiti na hoye priti. So just understanding the knowledge, what is it that we are trying to read, would help us develop faith. And once we have faith, it gives us more reasons to develop, to apply that practically when we are truly convinced this is something beneficial. So that is where we're going to spend a lot of time today in our session. It will be a great recap as well. And we'll have some discussion as well. And I would really encourage the participants to come forward and share their experiences around it as well. I can raise my hand and tell what are some of the things that I can relate to, even before I was introduced to Bhagavad Gita, and what are some of the stereotypes I had to challenge within my own head around this thing. So without much ado, welcome again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Hope you're excited to be back. I'm surely am, and hope the feeling is mutual. So let's get started. I'll share my screen and we will get underway. All right, so let me share my screen. Let me know when everything is visible. Everything all right? Audio, video looks fine. Okay. So let's start it with our opening prayers by invoking the blessings of God and Guru, and then we'll get started with the session. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening again, all of you. So let's get started. I have picked up a shloka today, which is from Gita Dhyan, which is a very important shloka. Mahatma, glorifying Gita, it talks about. So that is the one I've chosen today. Like always, I'm going to recite it and then you're welcome to follow along before we get into the discussion and some deeper understanding of Bhagavad Gita itself. So this is the one. So this is the agenda for today. So we will look at Bhagavad Gita standing in scriptures. Give me a sec. Am I doing right now? Okay. So this is our standing agenda for today. We'll look at it. Where is Bhagavad Gita placed in our scriptures? Right? We have so many scriptures, Puranas and whatnot. Then we will further go on to look at how it grows on us. Okay. This is something which is, this knowledge is not static knowledge. Like you go through some book, static knowledge you kind of understand and move on. It is sentient knowledge. So something which is sentient is living and breathing, it's evolving like we do. So we will look at this concept of Bhagavad Gita growing on us. Furthermore, we are going to look at Bhagavad Gita study, common barriers to overcome. It's important to be mindful of those barriers. I'm sure a lot of you would have encountered that with your friends, family, people around. At least I have. I can relate to those. And then finally, we will look at Bhagavad Gita study from a seeker's perspective. Everything end of the day, it is like, what is in it for me? And that is what we will look at. Some of the questions that Bhagavad Gita helps us understand and why it is important. So let's get started. Like I said, these are some of the questions we'll tackle today. Why do we need to read Bhagavad Gita? And what is Bhagavad Gita standing in scriptures, in our scriptures? Somebody may say, why should I read Bhagavad Gita? Why not Kathopanishad? Why not Brahmanandavalli? I can go to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, or I can go to Brahma Sutra. Why should I read this? So that is what we are going to look at as well. Okay. So let's get started. Like I said, I have picked up a Gita Dhyan Shloka, very important one. So I am going to recite it and then you are welcome to follow along, whoever wants to participate. Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandanaha partho vatsa sudhir bhokta dugdham gitamritam mahat. All right, do we have any volunteers?
Yes, many. Okay, let's get started with Samji. Radhe Radhe Samji.
Radhe Samji,
Radhe Radhe.
good to see you
Welcome
back.
back to me.
You've become more devotional now.
Oh God, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandanaha Pardho vatsas sudhir bhokta dugdham gitamrutam mahat.
Very
Thank you.
nice.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you very much, Radhe Radhe. Okay, let's take a few more hands.
Yeah, Ashutosh ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Ashutosh ji, good to see you.
सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्.
Very nice, Ashutosh ji, Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Dinesh ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
सर्वोपनिषपदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, good to see you back. Okay, let's take a few more hands and then we'll get started. It's a very important question.
Yeah, I just thought I'll mention it's too good to see everyone so much excited and enthusiastic. And I also see new names of people whom we met during LTP and they have joined us today for the first time. So
yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. If you're joining in for the first time, very warm welcome. We'd love to hear from you. When we get to interactive or even otherwise. So please raise your hand and we'd love to hear more about you. This is a wonderful group. We have been reading Bhagavad Gita for a while now and very welcoming. If you continue with this session, you'll understand what I'm saying. So very hearty welcome to all of you.
Yeah, and everybody is encouraged if they can turn on their videos. Our engagement and interactions will be facilitated further. So
yeah, it's always recommended if you can do that. So all right, let's take a few more hands.
Yes, Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Shri Ramya ji.
Radhe Radhe. Sarvopanishado gavo dokta gopalanandanaha partho vasta sudhibhokta bhuktam gitamrutam mahat.
Very nice, Shri Ramya. Wonderful. Okay. Let's take all the hands. We can take everybody today.
Wonderful. Meenakshi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Meenakshi ji.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji. Radhe Radhe Sandhya ji. Sarvopanishado gavo dogda gopalanandanaha partho vatsas sudhir bhokta dugdam gitamratam mahat.
Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe.
Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Rahul.
Radhe Radhe. Sarvopanishado gavo
Dogda Gopal Nandanaha Partho Vatsah Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gita Mratam Mahata. Very nice, Rahul. So just for everybody's information, we are actually on chapter 4. However, I thought it would be a good thing to recap why are we doing what we are doing so that we have an appreciation for it. And the journal, the philosophy that we follow during this session is to keep on recapping the key concepts so that foundationally we are revising those concepts and we are evolving as a group so that when we go to the further topics, the previous concepts are clear to everybody. Yes, let's take the next few hands.
Monica ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Nitin ji, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name. I'm sorry.
Sandhya.
Sandhya ji and Nitin ji, sorry, we are in our meditation room. I have my two sisters along with me, so they'll sing along. So is that okay?
Sure,
I'll
sure.
them onwards. Okay, thank you. Okay. Sarvopaniषदो गावो Dogda Gopal Nandanaha Partho Vatsah Sudhi Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Mahat. Radhe Radhe.
Nice, Radhe. Very nice. You get some claps
Does
already.
it lead to our ears?
It's great to hear that from you. I hope Arjun is with you as well.
Arjun is yes. Yes.
By the way, Monica ji, Arjun doesn't go to sleep unless he has read some Bhagavad Gita shloka. So I said it's for a good reason. His name is Arjun. So thank you. And pleasure to have you on the session. We'd love to hear more from you. Thank you so much.
All ours, Nitin. Thank you, Sandhya ji. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. All right.
Okay, next, Sumesh ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Sumesh ji.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्.
Very nice. Radhe Radhe. Okay, last 4 hands.
5. Uday ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Uday ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Sarvopaniषदो गावो Dogda Gopala Nandanaha Partha Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Mahat. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Good to see you. All right.
Shruti ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Shruti.
Radhe Radhe Sandhya. Radhe Radhe Nitin. सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्.
Wonderful.
Radhe Radhe.
Very nice. Okay, down to our last 3. Let's take that and then we'll get started.
Pragi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
Sarvo Upanishado Gavo Dogda Gopal Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gita Amritam Mehet.
Thank you, Pragi ji. Okay, we'll take 2 more and then we'll get started.
Yeah, Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Shyam ji. Belated happy birthday.
सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धम गीतामृतम महत्. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Okay, real quick we can take and then we have some content to cover. So let's take the last 2. I see one more hand.
Yeah, Riya ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe ji.
Radhe Radhe. Sarvopaniषदो गाओ दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भक्तो दुग्धां गीतामृतं महत्. Radhe Radhe.
Sudhir Bhokta. Thank you. Okay, last one, last but not the least. Lakshmi ji, please go ahead.
Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Sarvopaniषado Gavo Dogda Gopalanandanaha पार्थो वस्तः सुधीर्भुक्ता दुःखं गीतामृतं महत्. Radhe
Thank you,
Radhe.
Lakshmi ji. Very nice. Radhe Radhe. So let's get started. So like I said, it is from Gita Dhyan, Shloka 4. It says, all the Upanishads are the cows and milkman is Krishna. So it's a pretty profound statement. If all the scriptures are like the cows, then in this particular case, the milkman is Krishna. And what does it mean? The cowherd. And Parth is another name for Arjuna, as we have seen, right? He's son of Pritha. Is the calf, and those of pure intellect, genuine seekers of truth, are the beneficiaries of this divine knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, the supreme nectar, the milk. So, if we simply devour this nectar, we are getting pretty much the entire essence of the entire scriptures that we have. That is the value of Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Krishna, when he descended in his Purna avatar 5,000 years back, he made it simplified for us. As we will see furthermore, what is the significance of Bhagavad Gita? He took pretty much the entire scriptures and poured it into Bhagavad Gita. Right? I keep on telling that Bhagavad Gita is basically, it is one of the three prasthantrayas. I'll talk about that more. But let's for now understand that there is no need to go into the scriptures. If you simply read Bhagavad Gita, that is more than enough. Okay, we'll not get into Puranas right now, Bhagavad Purana and other things, but let's say for now, the essence of entire scripture is distilled for us for our benefit by Lord Krishna. Now it has to be obviously understood with the key condition here is genuine seekers of truth and people who are actually approaching it with faith. Because furthermore in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna goes on to say, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. I give them the buddhi and sit there and make the concepts click. Okay? Otherwise it will not. And if you don't do it with faith, then it may so happen, you may ask that Sarvo Panishado Gavo, Dogdha Gopal Nandana, Dog Gadha, who are these Dog Gadhas that God is talking about, right? And one will be that person, another will be the one who's reciting. So it requires God's grace to understand what it means and requires a lot of faith and devotion because it is sentient knowledge. These are the words which came out of Lord Krishna's mouth, who is the Brahmanda Nayak, the very basis of this life that we see around. So when we approach with that, a lot of good things happen. Just by listening to Bhagavad Gita is called an intellectual sacrifice. Just by continue to hearing that, there's a lot of transformation that can happen. That is the power of these shlokas. Now let's get into the content. So furthermore, it is said that Sarva Shastra Mai Gita, Sarva Deva Mai Yata, Sarva Dharma Mai Yasmat Tasmad Etam Sambhavyase. So basically, Bhagavad Gita contains the essence of all the literatures. It is a sum total of all the demigods and the sum total of all religion. It should, therefore, one should study Bhagavad Gita thoroughly. Some more anecdotes around it. The second one, the person who constantly reads Bhagavad Gita day and day, after gets liberated from all sins and attains Lord Vishnu's abode. I've just picked some additional anecdotes to corroborate it. But let's get into the deeper understanding of this. Now, what do we see on the screen right now? Anybody? What's happening here? Yes, Samji.
Shamji,
But
Radhe Radhe.
churning curd to bring out butter, yogurt.
Yes, churning milk to bring out yogurt. I saw one more. Yes, that's right. So when you churn something, the essence of that comes on the top. Like when you churn milk, the cream comes on top, right? And that is the churning which is done for all the scriptures. Now, this churning is basically the Upanishads are the cream of the Vedas. So Upanishad, if you look at the entire Vedas, Vedic literature that we have, the Upanishads, they are called the cream of the Vedas. Furthermore, the Upanishads, they are very difficult to fathom. If you go into each of the Upanishads, it's very difficult to understand without a master. If you go line by line and shloka by shloka, you need a lot of expert guidance, and they're very difficult to fathom for a common man. Like if a common man attempts to do that, it's very difficult for them. Furthermore, the Brahma Sutra was created. So if you look at the Brahma Sutra, where they have created the Brahma Sutra, small sutras, it is the synopsis of Upanishad, the Brahma Sutra. And it is also called Vedant. So in Gyan Yoga, it is the culmination of Vedic thought. the Brahma Sutra. So a lot of Gyan yogis, they study the Vedantic study who do, they go through Brahma Sutra and refer to that as their go-to book. This is also hard to comprehend, and it is open to ambiguity as well and subjective interpretation because of its conciseness. Now the sutra will be a little aphorism, right? And that aphorism, in order to get into that depth, you need somebody, like I said, there has to be two qualifications for that person who's trying to translate it: Shrotri and Brahmanisht. So common man, again, it is something which is not so easily accessible. You can go on and study it and put your own interpretation to it, but then that is not a very smart way of actually trying to read Upanishads or Brahma Sutra for that matter. Now, what does a common man do? Somebody who believes in Swadhyay, self-study. See, these scriptures are not ordinary books. They are not writings from an author like us. Vedas are called Aparushe. Aparushe means something which is not created by a Purush or a human being. They were manifested when the creation came about, or whenever the creation comes about. We have looked at that entire cycle, right? So they are called Shruti Praman or Aparushe. So attempting to read Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, it is very, very cryptic for a common man. Having said that, that is where, if you look at Bhagavad Gita, right? Maybe I should come to this one later. This is where Bhagavad Gita is more accessible than these two above scriptures. It is comprehensive and easy to understand, and it is a summary of the entire Vedic philosophy. So even if a common man picks it up, I'm not saying they'll get the import of it all by themselves. They would still need God's grace and an expert guidance of Guru. However, it is still accessible. You will start getting some import of it, as opposed to going to Brahma Sutra or Upanishads directly. And Bhagavad means God, Gita means song. It is literally means the song of God. So if you look at it, life with or without Bhagavad Gita, it basically gives you a kind of a sense. If you go through other books, crisscross all over the place, okay, you will never get answers. And multiple theories, as many people are out there, right? Somebody will say this, somebody will say that. It is a wild, wild west. And that is where this slide would make more sense. So if you look at the aspect of our scriptures here, right? So Bhagavad Gita or self-help books, if you look at it, you put the entire library of self-help books and even the WhatsApp factory, whatever is out there in material knowledge is there. It will get dwarfed or diminished in front of Bhagavad Gita. That is how heavy the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is, because one is material, the other one is divine. This knowledge is divine. Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary knowledge. Okay, it may seem very straightforward, but trust me, this knowledge, if you simply open, like Mahatma Gandhi used to say, whenever I used to need solace in my life, I'll open up, turn over a page of Bhagavad Gita, and it would derive a lot of solace out of it, because it will give you exactly what you need at that point in life. And a lot of people can actually tell that, who have been ardent readers of Bhagavad Gita, or who actually refer to this book to take guidance and inspiration in their lives, they would see that happening. It's like directly conversing with Lord Krishna. That is the value of Bhagavad Gita. So all these self-help books and all the stuff, okay, I'm sure a lot of people who would have tried that through their experience, they would know they are barely scratching the surface. It doesn't, you don't even get entry into spirituality. Don't take tension, don't get worried, right? And then as soon as the message comes, we forward it to somebody as if it will take away their worry just by reading that message. Nothing. That technology that we get in all these material books and these forwards is nothing, basically, because it does not actually gives you the tools which can actually not only cure the symptom but also hit the root cause for that. If you don't truly understand who we are, if you don't truly understand how our psychology unfolds, how our mind works, how our intellect works, how does the process of this entire attachment and pleasure, pain, all these phenomena, they unfold, anger that comes, which so beautifully Krishna explains throughout the Bhagavad Gita, we don't even know how to tackle that, right? It's almost like sneezing. Do you have control over that? Of course not. So just by hearing somebody, don't take tension, stay happy, don't be worried. Has anybody cracked that code all by themselves? No. And that is essentially what self-help books will lead us to. Bhagavad Gita will give us tools and techniques And also, just by contemplating on the knowledge and putting faith in it, you can start reaping the benefits, practical benefits in your day-to-day life. That is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. So the bottom line here is that it's okay to go through those books if they help you, but if you have landed to Bhagavad Gita, there's absolutely no need to refer to anything. All the answers are, it's a one-stop shop for all the issues afflicting the humanity, right? Our mind, the afflictions that we have to deal with, what are those afflictions? The bigger problems of life. The bigger problems of life are how to get above the tridosh, tritap, panchaklesh, all those things, mental afflictions we cannot get over, the problems that we face in this world, the war and the virus and health problems and mental, all those afflictions we cannot get over. Under us the sway of three gunas that we are, right? Tamasic gun, rajasic gun, sattvic tendencies that we cannot get over that. So all these problems that we have, Bhagavad Gita tells us the tools and techniques how to get over that. That is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita, and nothing can tell exactly how do you get that, right? In happiness, science of happiness, Swamiji had beautifully explained. All the philosophers and Western psychologists and everybody, they barely scratched the surface until you came to the scriptures, and which explained how our mind works, right? There's those three gunas that we talk about, and only when we get to the nirguna state will we truly achieve happiness. And the way to happiness is improving yourself. The buck stops at you. Can anybody explain that? No. No matter which the depth of which philosophy you go into, nobody can explain that. And that is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. I always keep on telling, this is the churning of all the scriptures. And when you churn all the scriptures from a bhakti standpoint, what came out? See, when you churn all the scriptures from an essence standpoint, Bhagavad Gita comes. When you churn all the scriptures from a bhakti standpoint, Bhagavatam comes. Right? In Vedavyas, he said that, Sarva Shastrani, basically Arodhyam Puni Puni. He said, I contemplated on all the scriptures repeatedly, and that's when he came up with Bhagavatam. So anyway, we are not going to take this discussion to Bhagavatam. We'll limit our discussion to Bhagavad Gita today. So let's move on. We spoke about Bhagavad Gita. It gives you clear path ahead without any ambiguity, without any confusion. Now let's move on. The first time when you read Bhagavad Gita, okay, this is what your experience would be. You gain something. Second time you'll go through it, you will feel, oh my God, I have understood something more, which I didn't understand previously. Third time, you will say, you know what? Now I've understood something else from the same shloka. Fourth time, fifth time. The bottom line is, this is how your experience would be with Bhagavad Gita. Even if you continue to study your lifetime, you will never be able to get the complete import of it because it is so deep and profound. That is how the study of Bhagavad Gita unfolds, as your experience would tell you as well. I see a couple of hands. Yes, you had a question which I could take.
Yeah, Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Ramya ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Can you just repeat that statement once? Like when you churn all the scriptures from Bhakti standpoint, that is Bhagavatam. And when you churn it from what standpoint is it Bhagavad Gita?
So it is basically a sense of all the Upanishads and all our Vedic literature is Bhagavad Gita. Now I'll tell you why I told you that. So Vedavyas created all the Puranas and Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, pretty much everything, right? Mahabharata he wrote. And then he was feeling a sense of dissatisfaction. He was saying, you know what, I have created this entire body of literature for human, but there is still something missing. I don't know what is that is missing. So he went to his guru, Narad, and asked him, why do I have this sense of dissatisfaction, even though I have created so much of literature, including Bhagavad Gita? Naradji said, that is because you have still not glorified God. You have not gone into the sweetness aspect of God. And that's when he told Vedavyas to first do bhakti. And then when he did that, he said that Puni Puni Arodhya Shastrani, Sarva Shastrani Arodhyam Puni Puni, that I had to churn all the scriptures time and again. And Vedavyas, the person of Vedavyas intellect is saying that. And finally, the fruit, if If this entire Vedas and scriptures is like a tree, the fruit of that tree is Bhagavatam. And that's when he said, now my work is complete, because Bhagavatam gets into the depths of bhakti. Where, like I always say, where Quran ends, Bible starts, right? Quran ends at don't do this, don't do that. Bible starts at be good. That's where it ends. Bhagavad Gita ends at being good is not good enough. You have to go even beyond goodness, nirgun. And the Bhagavatam starts, leave aside dharam, karam, arth and moksha. Forget about moksha also. Bhagavad Gita ends at moksha. And Bhagavatam says dharam, karam, arth and moksha. Leave aside that, now let's enter bhakti. So that is how the hierarchy goes. Now, if you want to say what is beyond Bhagavatam, it is called Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is super specialization. We'll not get into that. I bring in some references from that from time to time. Where we'll get into Bhakti Yoga, we'll bring in more references. But that is even further distillation of that for the benefit of us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his avatar was a Bhakti avatar, so he actually made it even more accessible. Yes, anybody had any other question? So
we have Nikhilji also here today. He has raised hand.
Oh, yes, Nikhil, please go ahead. Good to see you back.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Nikhilji, please go ahead.
Radhe Nikhil.
Radha Nikhilji. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I had one question. So like from as you were explaining about the Bhagavatam. So like did Bhagavatam come after the Bhagavad Gita or like?
Chronologically, I think the Bhagavad Gita, when it was spoken about, was about 5,000 years ago. But Bhagavatam, I think from a chronological order, I can check it out with Swamiji. Probably it came a little before or after. I'll have to check that. I think it probably came a little before Bhagavad Gita. However, having said that, this Bhagavad Gita is from our time reference standpoint, right? This Bhagavad Gita multiple times. We are in the 7th Manvantar of the 51st. We did that calculation, right? But the point here is scriptures tell us that Bhagavad Gita also, it goes beyond that as well. So chronologically, I think this is a good question. I can check it out with Swamiji and let you know.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So it has, yes, Manishi, you had a question as well?
Yeah, Manishi, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yeah, I actually had a question, but it got answered. But I wanted to add something to the scale of the Bhagavad Gita. When Swami Vivekananda was invited to do a speech here in the US, and he put his Bhagavad Gita down, and then everybody else purposely put all the books on top of it to hide the Gita. And then it came for Swami Vivekananda to speak, and he said, look at the Bhagavad Gita, it's holding the weight of all this. And when he picked up the Bhagavad Gita, it toppled all the other books because it was on the bottom. So he's like, look at that. So it's kind of like the scale analogy that you gave. I wanted to give that.
Yeah, the scale analogy. Yeah. Yep. Thank you for bringing that out, Manishi. Wonderful. So the key point here is that it gives us a law of enhancing returns. We extract as much as the size of our vessel from the ocean of Bhagavad Gita. So it's like approaching an ocean. If your antakaran is ready for this much, you will extract this much. When you grow further in devotion and your understanding, it will extract more and more and more and more, and it has infinite knowledge in it. We can never say I have read Bhagavad Gita. That is a false pride talking. You can never complete Bhagavad Gita until you have become God realized. That's when you'll get the true import of it. So no matter what stage of life you are in, no matter how many times you have gone through it, it is never enough. That is the beauty. It's a sentient knowledge. Let's understand that. It's not a static or jada knowledge that we get in our books. Okay. Now, every read deepens our understanding incrementally. So however many times you read it, you will learn something new. That is the beauty of it. 2.47, we spent about a week doing that Karam Yoga. Maybe we'll bring it in our future sessions again. But this time when I heard the Science of Happiness of Swamiji, there were so many other angles he brought in. So I was like, okay, we spent so much time, but we never thought like this. So that is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. So Karam Yoga is something which is very practical. We will bring it again for the benefit of everybody, because I said, if we can start practicing Karam Yoga or start aligning to those principles, it increases our odds of spiritual success threefolds. Because 8 to 9 hours we spend in our work, or dealing with people, or dealing with our kids, relatives, people around, our bosses, our parents, whoever it is. If that's where we can start aligning some of these principles, it increases our odds of attaining spiritual perfection by 3 times. Otherwise, our devotion is limited to temple only, right? When we are temple, okay, that is devotion. After that, we think God has vanished, evaporated. But Karam Yoga forces us to align those principles in our day-to-day lives, right? Krishna did not tell Arjun to stop doing the war, as people like to believe, right? That you will become a sannyasi if you read Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna said, no, you don't need to change your job description. You just need to tweak your mindset around how you approach your job. That's all it is. And that is what spirituality is essentially. Okay, I saw some hand and then probably to take back. Let's continue. So let's look at some of the impediments now. Okay, I'm probably going to see some smiles when I bring in some impediments. And I would like to have a bit of a discussion because it's a very important thing to first acknowledge it. See, when we, yes, Aarti ji, Aarti had raised hand. Please go ahead.
Aarti ji, if you raise again, I can unmute you.
Aarti ji, if you have raised it, you are not allowed to put it back. Okay, so now you have to ask a question, no matter what it is. Please go ahead.
Yes, Aarti ji. Please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Hariom, Nitinji.
Hariom.
First of all, I have to tell you, I missed your session. My whole week was so troubled, was so annoyed. I actually cried. I was so much angry and disappointed. So when next time, if you are gonna make up this much long holiday, you are even not allowed to have this much long holiday. Okay, have maximum 3 days off. That's it. Not more than 3. Okay.
Fair point. Point taken, and I'll try my best not to have. In fact, I've gotten a kind of an assurance on this that no more long breaks. Okay, unless something is really the world. You know, there is a UFO attack on Earth, then it is a different matter. But other than that, we'll try not to take such a long break. So I understand that we lose momentum. And I was missing it equally, these sessions. You know, it keeps that rhythm going, that mindset going, and we really don't want to lose that momentum. So hope things are looking back up, Aarti ji, and glad to have you back.
My question is, what are Prakaran Grantha then? And can we directly read Bhagavad Gita? Because see, even there are other sessions, offline sessions, which, teach Vivek Chudamani or Maharshi's this Upadesh Saram, if you have heard. So what are all those? And do we need to even, like they say, these are the like basic help kit kind of a text. So do we have to read them to go through Bhagavad Gita, or we can directly means jump? Because Bhagavad Gita sometimes even go bouncer on me also. So
No, you can take supplements along with the main dose. I would say main dose is Bhagavad Gita. If it goes bouncer, then see what help you can get. The other things are corollaries from the scriptures, right? Now, the problem with that might happen is you might pick up something very selectively and then say this is the truth, and which may confuse you even further. So it's important to first read it in entirety and then read it a translation which is not done just by somebody who's done it for his hobby or they liked it. Okay, if it is vetted by a Brahmanist and Kshotriya saint, then you are getting the true import of it. And this can get really complicated. When I tried reading Bhagavad Gita for the first time, I'll tell you my experience. I could not go past 30 pages. Just could not understand it. It was just too heavy for me. But with God and Guru's grace, as you kept on persisting, and I came across this translation from Swamiji and kept on listening to discourse, it all started falling in place. Right? All these complicated concepts, as I'm sure during the course of your journey in these sessions, you would have understood a lot of concepts which you thought were very difficult to understand. Right? So I would suggest if you need help on a particular topic, then you can get some supplemental guidance. But main course, I would say, would continue to be Bhagavad Gita because it covers it in entirety and not selectively. Okay. And then any doubts that you have, we are here, right? That is why we are having these sessions. So you can always bring those doubts in the sessions or in the tracker, and I'll be more than happy to get on offline or maybe bring it to these sessions for the benefit of everybody so that we can tackle those questions, because the challenges, the problems, and the questions that we face are very universal in appeal. Okay, everybody can relate to it, at least most of the things, I would say.
but do we need to read those Prakaran Granths like Adi Shankara's charges? Because it is totally Advaita and I don't know, I cannot relate with it.
So you focus on one thing. I would suggest each philosophy has their own way of telling things. So once your concepts are sticking, just stick to that, because when you start digging a well, it's important to continue digging the same well, because then you will get water. If you start digging multiple wells, first of all, you'll get confused, and then you will never gain the sufficient depth in anything, and keep experimenting around it. So work with me. What are the topics that confuse you? And I can provide you some references so that you can stay focused around it. If you get into Advait and all that stuff, it can confuse you. You start into Kriya Yoga, it will confuse you even further. So focus on one thing and start taking it to the next level. That would be my recommendation based on my little experience that I've had.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Lakshmi ji, real quick.
Yeah, Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. So my question is, like, in the court we take an oath while giving the evidence, right? Putting our hands on Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. So my question is, why the person who is wrong on the other side? Yeah, in a case, one will be right and one will be wrong finally. The person who is wrong, how does the conscious will to say, take an oath that he's telling everything correct in front of the judge?
Oh, see, this is just like this. Even when you get married, you take oath in front of fire.
Yeah.
Do that. So that is the best attempt humans can do in order to bring truthfulness and integrity. Right? Bhagavad Gita is like a pious scripture. On putting your hand on Bhagavad Gita, then that means it will bring out the truth in you, or you will say the truth. You understand. You honor the sanctity of this book. But if you don't, it can stop you from that, right? You will go to Narak. That is a different thing. But and then the same thing we do with a lot of other things as well, right? When you take oaths in front of fire and stuff like that. This is just an attempt to say that it will bring out my integrity just because I'm doing it in front of something which carries sanctity. But that does not give you a foolproof formula that person will not tell a lie for sure. It's just an attempt humans can do and hope for the best. That's how it is.
There's a question from Samji. Why did Krishna give Bhagavad Gita in such a complicated way that it is hard to understand on our own?
No, he did not give it in a complicated way. Arjun was able to understand it in 3 hours, implement it, and even fight the war. Our intellects have become so dull because of our extracurricular activities other than spirituality that it is making it difficult for us to understand. In the same lifetime, people like Swamiji have understood it, right? They have translated it. So our brain has the capacity, and that is the whole process of spirituality, where we are harnessing our true power around what we can get that. So God has not made it complicated. We have dimmed our intellect in our multiple lifetimes, through our choices. And you would, I'm telling you, you can surprise yourself in a few months' time if you start, approaching this topic with faith and devotion. A lot of answers you don't even have to seek; they will start getting revealed within you. It is so easy. God will make it for you. So we just have to take those steps and persevere and surprise. After a while, you will surprise yourself. A lot of people have done that. So, and I can tell you that all your questions will get settled. So Arjun was able to hear that Bhagavad Gita and understand it and even implement it. And so we all have that potential. That is where we talk about law of incremental, right? We all have infinite potential. It's our own understanding through which we cap our potential and think that is all we can do. Now let's go through some of the barriers, right? These are some of the barriers, big barriers that people have. Okay, there may be more you may want to add. These concepts are esoteric and difficult to understand. Okay, the first one, like you said, right? This could become a barrier for that. They are very, it's a bouncer for me, just too high level, very philosophical. I just can't relate to it. Okay, first barrier. Second one, it is idealism, no reference to practical life. That is another barrier. Okay, it is idealism, no relevance to practical life. I would say there is no other book with practical tools other than Bhagavad Gita you would ever find on this earth. Okay. Third barrier that I have said, my current priority is my family and work. Reading Gita can wait. This is a very common one. A lot of people say that I have my priorities and how can I find time for these kind of things. Bhagavad Gita can wait. Other barrier is I know it all already. Nothing more to learn. I'm my own guru. You will come across this argument with a lot of people around you. self-styled gurus. Okay, I know it already. Symptom. Then who has seen life after death to trust these philosophical concepts? Right? A lot of people will come, oh, who has seen that, man? Jab hoga dekha jayega. Maharaj ji said, then you will not dekho, you will bhogo after that. So that is another impediments, right? The next one is, if I can't see or verify in lab, it is not scientific and blind faith. Marxists say that, communists say that, scientists would say that, right? We have spoken about, and I'm going to touch upon this topic tomorrow, the different kind of proofs, empirical evidences and stuff like that. It's called blind faith. It's like for people who have blind faith, who have nothing better to do in life, who are weak, who have been defeated by life, they go with these things. That is another argument I've seen. Okay. What next? This is a religious text for Hindus. I want to stay away from religion. There are so many wars fought on religion. I just want to stay away from it. It is for Hindus. Okay, that's another misconception or the barrier to read this book. Then this is meant for older people only. What is your age? I mean, I came across this thing. Why do you guys do that? You are young and do go party, go enjoy, do that. This is not an age to do all this stuff. More than myself, I want my kids to read it. Okay, this is a good one. I come across people, they said, yeah, wow, one Bhagavad Gita, can you please teach my kids? I said, how about you? He said, no, our time is gone. Can you please tell them? Kind of a deal. So we want our kids to be, but investing on ourselves, not so much. Gita is all common sense and moral science we have studied in the past. Okay, that's the biggest misnomer. It's not moral science. One shloka, 16.3 will cover your entire moral science and much beyond that. One shloka. It goes much beyond that. Okay. I'm good and honest with everyone. I don't feel the need to read it. And I'm simple. I lead a simple life. I don't hurt anybody. I do my work. This is another argument people give and say there's no need for them. Happy and content in my simple life. Do not have a need to invest time on it. Too busy. Do not have time. There are too many translations of this book which want to follow. I don't have any reason not to read it, but I still won't read it. So these are some of the things. Any other barriers you can think of that you can bring to the fold? These are some of the ones that at least I have come across and I have tried to share, but I'm sure there are much more than that, and I'd be happy to hear that from you if there are. If not, we can continue. Yes.
Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, I could think of one more barrier. Like usually people say that when I find a good teacher, that time I will read Bhagavad Gita, till then I won't read. But then you'll have to try, right? You will have to try, and while trying, you may really come across your teacher.
True. It's a chicken and egg kind of a situation, right? If you come across a good teacher, you will read it, but then if you don't find out, what do you do basically at that time? Do you do nothing or pray to God and keep doing your effort? That is a question to be asked, right? So because God is seated within you, He will check your intent, and if you are genuinely seeking it for the right reasons, obviously He'll land you with a good or a right person around that. So this is how it works. Yes, a few other hands are raised as well.
Gyan Bharti ji says, Radhe Radhe, after getting the Bhagavad Gita lessons on the battlefield, Arjun was crying for the loss of his son Abhimanyu. How can we perceive this? What learning we can take? Radhe Radhe.
Okay, so Abhimanyu, let me talk about that. After that, yeah, he was crying. So what did he learn basically, right? Very valid question around that. So there are two ways to look at it. One is, see, Arjun, if we let's take a step back here. Let's understand who Arjun is. So Arjun is a Nar. He was part of the Nar. He was Nar in that avatar, right? So Arjun and Krishna, previously Nar Narayana avatar they had. And in this one, so Nar Narayana avatar means he's already God realized. So there are times when God turns the key, the souls, so that they can enact the Leela. So if somebody is God realized, how can he have a doubt that I'm going to kill my relatives? I have played in my Pitama's lap, and if I'm going to kill him, what will happen? All these things, the God had turned the key in his heart so that he could plant a question as a proxy for all of us, and we all can benefit. So he was enacting a Leela, and something similar he could have enacted at the time of Abhimanyu's demise as well. It is said that he was taken to Abhimanyu basically to the Somlok, I believe, where he said, my son as a wailing father would do. And he said, which son are you talking about? In so many lives, I've been your father. In so many lives, you've been my son. So in part of Leela, God can turn a key and make that happen so that we can understand through that Leela that we have to rise above these dualities and these temporary attachments that we build in our life. I would look at it that way. Arjun actually was not an ordinary person who got confused and then understood, and Krishna, he was already a realized soul. So he was just enacting a Leela with Lord Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But from our benefit now, the same kind of a Leela, similar kind of a Leela was enacted by Parvati as well when Ram Avatar happened. That if you start questioning God's Leelas, when she came like Mother Sita in front of him, that if you put your buddhi in God's Leelas, the results, consequence will be disastrous. Now, did Parvati got overcome by ignorance? No, that was again a Leela that she did. So God enacts so many Leelas, even with his realized saints, turns the keys and do that for the larger good. That is how I would interpret it. Hope that answers a little bit, at least.
I'm sure it does. We take the hands. Vijayji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just reiterating the barriers, and I was just thinking about it. And somehow we feel we are not ready for it. For the Bhagavad Gita as a barrier. So I was just thinking on those lines, because sometimes we don't have the discipline. And for a normal chores like going to the gym or maintaining a good diet or physique, similarly, we probably feel like if I am very bad at that, spiritually, I'm probably not ready. So that's probably one of the barriers that I would.
Right. We face, it's like that syndrome, we call it, right? That you wait for that perfect situation that, okay, all these things, once they align and get sorted out, then I'm ready for it. So we wait for the rain to go away, but while the real thing is to go out in the rain and dance, right? That's what they say. When we keep on waiting, there's and they say there's a quotation in English which says time is always right to do the right thing. But yeah, that you rightly pointed out, there are barriers around that as well, where we think, we are not yet ready, or something else has to happen even before we can embark on this journey. For sure. Tomorrow we are going to spend a little bit more time on what answers do you get, right? The questions. Now, what is in it for me kind of a deal, more in detail. I'll get into that. How are some of the questions that plague us? Maybe we can have a discussion on that tomorrow. But today I wanted to continue to spend any other barriers that you can see where you have seen your friends, family, and people, when you say, let's read Bhagavad Gita, why they would say, okay, let's maintain a distance. I don't want to, for whatever reason. Any other things that we have spoken about today that we need to look at as well. But this is something that I'm sure all of us have gone through this journey at some point in our life. And the good news is that we have conquered that to be able to come to, and start reading Bhagavad Gita on a daily basis. But these are some of the barriers we are likely to encounter. Even when you see people around or talk to them, it's like some reason would be there. It's important that if we have conquered that reason, we should feel fortunate it happens with God's grace only, and make the most of it. That's how I would see it. I can see a few more hands. We can take those questions as well.
Yeah, Pallavi, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji, Radhe Radhe Sandhya ji, and everyone. So good to be back in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nitinji, I have heard many of my friends saying that, as when we are talking about the barriers, that, oh, this is the project I'll take up after retirement. This is the one I'll take up after retirement. I'm thinking about it. I'll do it. As if they know that they will have time to do that after retirement.
There are two parts to it. Yeah, very true. This is a very common argument, right? They say we'll do it during our retirement. First of all, what is our age? How old are we? The age is not determined by how old are we. The age is determined by how far away we are from our exit.
Right.
That is a true age. So if somebody is supposed to live on this earth for 15 years or 16 years, like Abhimanyu, he was already very old when he turned 15.
All
And
right.
if somebody is supposed to live for 100 years, he's young even though he's 60. That is the first part. Do we know when our exit or knock knock from Mr. Yamraji would come? Nobody knows that, right? That's the first point. Second is, Maharaji says that when we grow old, we will do bhakti of our body more than bhakti of God. Okay, the knee is hurting, the back is hurting, the doctor has said this, that. It's very difficult unless you have built that resilience or that stamina to think about God in your hay years, to all of a sudden bring it into the mix in that age. And finally, what will happen is you will lie down and your relatives will get a cow in your hand and start putting 18th chapter shloka 66 in your ears, and that doesn't take us very far. Right? This is not something that you can just add in at your last minute, right? There was an interesting joke that this was a guy, Yamraj comes to him, knock, knock. He said, all right. He said, yes, Mr. Yamraj, what's up? He said, your time has come, time to go. He said, no, but I have so many projects, uncompleted. I have to sign those documents, and then I have to send so many WhatsApp messages that I have not acknowledged as yet and all that stuff. So give me some time, please, and then I will go with you. Yamraj said, no, I have to be on clock on time. No discounts on that at all. He said, but let me at least fight with my wife for the one last time, and then I'm willing to go with you. So he said, Yamraj said, no, of course not. He said, okay, at least have tea with me. So Yamraj said, okay, fine. So what he does is he puts some sleeping pill into his tea, and Yamaraj goes to sleep. And then he looks at his list, Yamaraj's list, and puts his name right at the bottom. And then after a while, Yamaraj wakes up. And then he had a good sleep. Yamaraj, after a long time, he's a busy guy, right? Every second somebody is dying, so his job is pretty hectic. And he said, you know what? You gave me such a nice sleep. I have a change of heart. I'll go from the bottom of the list now. So the point is, our time, when it comes, it comes. Nobody can play around with that. And this retirement drama that we play in our head it's just making an excuse, nothing else.
Urvi has also put one of the concerns that students face. So students are told that focus on your studies. These things will distract you. But Swamiji has already given an answer that you'll be able to cut better if you sharpen your saw.
Yeah, very true. If you sharpen your saw, you will be an excellent student. Material success will, anyway, you will become better materially. Your focus, your intensity, your understanding, the way you would approach everything would change drastically, and it will give you a huge edge. Just knowing to follow on the process and not think about the outcome will start giving you immediate benefits. These days, when I read even some of the write-ups from cricketers and all, right, successful people, what they're trying to do, like Bumrah, Rohit Sharma, everybody's talking about process. We don't think about the outcomes. We think about the things we can control. We are thinking about our the drill that we have to do on a day-to-day basis and not think about the results. Everybody's talking about these concepts. So successful people, regardless of which profession you are in, what stage of life you are in, and more so for students, because their mind is most fertile. In old age, your mind is not fertile. You tell them one thing, they'll forget. You tell them again, they'll forget. So how can you understand when your mind is not fertile? So the best time to read Bhagavad Gita is when your mind is fertile, you're receptive, you can pick those concepts analytically and implement it as well. So young age, the sooner you start, the better it is. Contrary to
And as you had said, yeah, that this is just the manual for life. So whatever we do, this helps us doing it effectively, right? So
true, it's a manual basically for life. It's like any product that we get in our house. If we start using it, sophisticated product, and if you start using it without reading the manual, what will happen? You'll mess it up. And here the product is human life. And without reading the manual, we want to lead it. It's like, we need a lot of luck, basically. We are leaving it to luck, which is not a very smart strategy. So read the manual and then lead the life. We lead the life and then don't bother to read the manual at all. So that is the problem.
And there is one question from Vijay ji. He's attending our session for the first time, and he just wanted to know how can he catch up from here. So I could also add probably that you just start attending it regularly. There is no catching up needed that way.
Yeah. So thank you for calling that out, Sunday. Yeah. So no catch up needed as such. I'm just reiterating. Did this session because I know a lot of new participants have joined. If you want to speak, please come forward. I see new names today. But then if you keep attending it, you will not miss out anything. That much I can assure you. All the key concepts, we keep on going back and forth with cross references, and we pick up topics that are of utmost importance that we have covered so far from time to time. So you will not miss out. Only thing is that you'll have to continue attending it, because we plan it, periodically that way.
Right. And then there is this question from Rupa ji that do we have session tomorrow, as it is Ganesh Chaturthi tomorrow in India? We are going to have session, right?
Have session. We'll not have session on Friday because it's a retreat, but we continue, and no more 3 days like RPG had said. Okay, we'll not take such a long break unless, of course, something really unavoidable happens. Okay.
And the fact that you just talked about retreat, can I take a minute to announce about that as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. So yes, I have already posted about it on our chat window, and I'll again post it. So we have the retreat coming up. Many of you might know that we had a wonderful life transformation program going on, due to which we did not have our classes. So I have heard, and I truly believe in it, that Swamiji himself said that retreat is at least 20 times more blissful than what what we all experience in LTP. And we all have the opportunity to join it. So we all can join online for those who cannot come in person. So I strongly encourage everybody to consider registering for it and attending the retreat. It's in the Labor Day weekend, so we all can cherish and enjoy the bliss. So I have already posted the link. I'll post it again. And so, and Nitinji, add anything.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so retreat online, please do make it a priority. If you put on headphones and simply attend, you will get exactly the same bliss and nectar that people get here. And we were going to have online programs and stuff as well. I'm excited. I might be coordinating some of them. So please do sign up and take benefit from this wonderful retreat that is coming up. Like Sandhya said, right, if you like all these discourses from Swamiji, that retreat experience is 20 times more, right? If you like vitamin, want to take vitamin C, 20 oranges in one amla. So it's like an amla, okay? If you, from a vitamin C standpoint. So do check it out and do sign up if you have not already. It's going to be an awesome experience.
All right. So we move ahead. Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe.
So yes, and yes, Rahul ji, please go ahead, and then we'll get into our devotional segment for the day as well. I had Urvi, who had expressed interest in singing bhajan, and then we had Payal ji and a couple of other participants. Maybe we can take about 4 participants. I would encourage you to fill it in attendance tracker, because we'll pick up those names who have expressed their interest and give them priority. So fill out the attendance tracker, express your interest, and then we can round off our session with those devotional segment that we have introduced. So we can take real quick hands and then get started.
Radhe Radhe. So one of the biggest obstacles which I see usually when we are in contact with our relatives, parents, friends, they always tell that in Bhagavad Gita, it is written that you have to do your work, and that we already are doing that. So no need of reading Bhagavad Gita, but they are unaware of that concept of you. They have to add that, and then it might make sense. And
one of the other things that I've heard is that it's okay to read that, but don't go too deep. Okay, so I don't know what does that mean, but that is also one of the things I've.
And one of the other things which I wanted to reiterate about the importance of Bhagavad Gita. So Swamiji has mentioned that there are 3 types of Granth usually: Krit, Smrit, and Vinirgit. So here the Bhagavad Gita is coming in both of them, in Smrit and Vinirgit. So this is the importance. I think you can maybe elaborate later on that, but yeah.
Very true, very true. And Krishna, like a milkman, has, distilled that entire essence of scriptures for us. So which is the beautiful thing. Great.
And funny thing is, people who haven't actually read Bhagavad Gita end up citing Bhagavad Gita. It's written in Bhagavad Gita that you have to follow your dharma and fight this way. That's even more funnier for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I came across that message. Like anybody who wants to spread some message, their own message, they will say in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has said, Mitra, dost or sansar or thoda sa pyar, and that's about something like that. So I was like, okay, why did Krishna say that? But nobody will cross check it and they will assume that is what Krishna said. Okay, so that's a good way of spreading information that you want to spread, that in Bhagavad Gita Krishna has said. So
Yeah.
okay, let's take, I can see 3 more hands.
Yes, Swati ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Swati ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I also really missed the session because 7 days it was gap. It was like daily. I was like, when it will start again, it will start again. So that was daily I was contemplating on. Nobody ever told us that this is so important. That is also one thing, because anybody came and like even the childhood or even the adult, nobody talked about Bhagavad Gita to me. And when I came here and when I am listening, and there's no whatever its importance I'm getting now, so that was not known to me. So that may be also one of the reason we never knew anything about Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Yes, I know. A lot of times we don't even get that opportunity or a platform to read that. Very true. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then it's
Shyam ji.
yes, Shyam.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin bhai. I want to share my experience about Bhagavad Gita. I was trying to read Gita since beginning, not beginning, since class 10, 12th. I also bought Bhagavad Gita from ISKCON temple. I also had Gita from my grandfather. I used to read a couple of chapters, and as you said, we are all dim intellect. We had no clue how to understand. I couldn't even go beyond 10 pages. I do not know what happened. Then during lockdown, I again had my Bhagavad Gita from ISKCON. I read about 30 odd pages, and again it went off. As you said, we have to become Arjuna, I guess, and one day we'll become. But I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, that God has his own plans. It is his grace that we can read Bhagavad Gita. Because when I started reading Bhagavad Gita during lockdown, the same time in 20, you started this program, this Gita from JK Yog. And it so happened that I started reading Gita on my own, and you had these sessions on. So that was no break for me. Until then, it's almost, as I always say, it's a year and a half. I'm with you in day out. I haven't missed lecture. I do not think so, that maybe once or twice. But isn't it that it's God's grace that we have these all things, that no matter how hard we try, how much we try, we can't go through his, unless he wants us to do that. I'm saying through my experience. I tried 3 times. I could not do that. But this time, he made sure that this is the right time for you. And he made all things happen for me. And here I am reading Bhagavad Gita with you day in, day out. And I'm almost there, I can say now.
True. It's his grace. End of the day, everything happens through grace only. But your step, the fact that you persisted and you took that step, right, with faith and intensity, then God is, you're opening up his hands for grace as well, right? End of the day, it's grace only. But your effort, that step has to be taken by you. It's not like if God wants, then God wants everybody to read that, right? Why would God not want somebody else to do that? But it's your effort. The first step has to be taken by you, and you have to persist, and then it will open up the floodgates. And I'm glad it's clicking to you, and you're continuing on this journey, and it's a beautiful journey for sure.
I'm sure it is, no matter what. And like Vijay said, this is his first class today, and he has no clue how it goes. I want to tell him that no matter it's the first class or last class, once you are in this session, it's like a glue to you. He's like a Fevicol. He will make sure that you don't miss the sessions now onwards. That's for sure. Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, thank you, Shyamji. Yeah, it works both ways actually. I missed this session as well. I can't tell you how glad I'm happy to be back, and having a good day at office as well because of it. So thank you very much.
Yes. Radhe Radhe Padma ji.
Radhe Radhe Padma ji.
Just few things that I wanted to share with all the different perspectives. Krishna is Purna Avatar, right? He's himself is Purna Avatar, and Arjun is just a facilitator, right? One of the question which came up after God realization, and Nitinji answered very beautifully, right? Arjuna is the facilitator. So anything like Maya is the servant of God, and Maya will serve God, and Arjuna is the facilitator, and he will only do what is being facilitated and what is being directed, what is given to Arjuna, what question should come in his mind so that we can benefit. how should Krishna answer? What kind of confusions that we will have, whether you are a child or a teenager or the old age, whatever the situations or the confusions, how we can benefit, how humans can benefit, and especially in Kali Yuga, that was his vision, that as much as I understand, right? A vision of how he can teach us devotion. And Bhagavad Gita is no different. Bhagwan and Bhagavad Gita and devotion are no different. When you put your heart to it, you experience that, not that you would understand it intellectually, but you would actually experience the Bhagavad Gita and the message that he gives. And when you're trying to understand it, when you're struggling to understand God, when you're trying to put yourself out there, that you develop the devotion and bhakti, which naturally force, there is nothing can stop you, and you will naturally, that bhakti and devotion for Lord and Krishna and everything that he presents, it will naturally flow through you if you let it happen. But if you resist with your mind and monkey confusions, then you're going to resist yourself. But if you just let it happen naturally, you would see the progression within yourself and how you develop the bhakti and devotion for Bhagavad Gita, which is the Gita, and then God and the role of Arjuna. That was one thing that I wanted to say. When people approach Bhagavad Gita, they have a perception of why they're approaching. Maybe because they just want to get knowledge, maybe because they want to get bhakti and devotion. With what mindset you actually come, if you're coming to seek all the solutions for all the problems in your life, it will eventually happen. But you have to give yourself that time, space, and situation, and develop that bhakti. Stay at it, complete devotion, complete love, you give it, and whatever the intention that you entered in, whatever the purpose that you have entered in, it will naturally flow. You would see those things happen. That was the other thing that I wanted to say. Conditionally, like culturally, even though we have so many like Bhagavad Gita and such a great manual for life, it is always postponed for like later in the years. But we know that it should be from the beginning. Wherever you start, that is where he has designed it for you. If you have started, if you are in the path, if you're actually following, that is a blessing. So don't forget that piece, that you were blessed, and you took that step, and God has given you that path, that you are you were introduced to Bhagavad Gita, so you're already blessed. So there are no doubts, no second thoughts, there is no going back. So just keep that in mind, fridge or somewhere, that you are blessed. Just say to yourself that you're blessed.
True, very true. The fact that our mind has cooperated, our intellect has cooperated to get down to read this scripture itself is a blessing for sure. It cannot happen just like that. Some sanchit karma we would have acquired in our previous life, because of which God has graced us, so we should feel good about it. It's one of the blessings that we should make the most of, because out of 7 billion people, very small fraction actually gets the exposure or an opportunity to read this on a daily basis. And you can imagine how fortunate we are. You can pinch yourself now, okay, to really make sure that how fortunate we are. Okay, thank you so much, Padmaji. Now let's get down to our devotional segment. We can spend maybe a few minutes. Do we have anybody who wants to? Payalji, are you around? Urvi, I think she cannot do that today, but if somebody is interested, we can do that, maybe a few hands, and then we will round it off with our few lines of bhajans. That way, it's a good way to wrap up the session then. Tomorrow, we are going to discuss about, sorry. Go ahead,
No, please go ahead. Yeah, I was just saying that I wanted to reiterate that it's a possibility for all of us to attend the retreat from the comfort of our home. So please consider registering for it. You can watch it online. Online registrations are open, and also tell others around you. So help us in this seva of spreading this information as well. So
yes, and we are going to celebrate Radhashtami as well. So it's a good opportunity to get involved in that as well. Okay, so it's going to be a blissful 2.5 days that are coming up. So if you're sitting on the fence, don't wait, just sign up and enjoy the time there. All right.
And yeah, Payalji and Urviji won't be able to sing today. They both messaged about.
Anybody
Yeah,
else
so
that?
you should start, no?
Let's see. Padmaji, you wanted to sing? Yeah, I'll do that too. No worries. I'll do that. Okay, let me start then. I'll sing 2 lines and then Padmaji is there, and then maybe if somebody's interested, or you can put your name for tomorrow. I know we are doing it after a long time, so let's have a few lines then. Okay. मोहन तेरे चरणों की जो धूल ही मिल जाए, सच कहता हूँ मेरी तकदीर बदल जाए, मोहन तेरे चरणों की। सुनता हूँ कृपा तेरी, दिन रात बरसती है, एक बूंद जो मिल जाए, मन की कली खिल जाए, मोहन तेरे चरणों की। Thank you. Radhe Radhe. All right.
Wonderful. Let's ask Swati ji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I'll sing 2 lines, 2-3 lines only. Okay. मेरे ठाकुर गोविंद ठकुरानी राधे, मेरे ठाकुर गोविंद ठकुरानी राधे, नहीं छोड़ू पाछा तेरा चाहे चक्र जला दे, नहीं छोड़ू पाछा तेरा चाहे चक्र चला दे, मेरे ठाकुर गोविंद ठकुरानी राधे, रो रो मांगा करूँ प्रेम तू दे चाहे चाहे ना दे, रो रो मांगा करूँ प्रेम तू दे चाहे चाहे ना दे, मेरे ठाकुर गोविंद ठकुरानी राधे। Radhe Radhe.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Ji. Wonderful, beautiful bhajan from Haraj ji. Great. Let's take a few more hands.
Yes. Padma ji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe, I'll just do 2 lines. It's like 10:17. This is just few lines, not specific song, but गोपी वल्लभ गोपाला गोवर्धन गिरिधारे, गोपी वल्लभ गोपाला गोवर्धन गिरिधारे, नंद मुकुंद माधव लोचना, नंद मुकुंद माधव लोचना, कृष्ण हरे मुरारी, कृष्ण हरे मुरारी, गोपी वल्लभ गोपाला गोवर्धन गिरिधारे, नंद मुकुंद माधव लोचना, नंद मुकुंद माधव लोचना, कृष्ण हरे मुरारी, कृष्ण हरे मुरारी.
Thank you. Beautiful, Padma ji.
Wonderful.
Krishna evokes very strong emotions whenever a bhajan comes. So thank you so much for that. Okay, we'll take the last 2 hands. And then
Yeah.
session today.
Yeah, Asha ji. Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. I will sing few lines. I will not be able to do my video. My health is not well, but I will sing few lines. गिरिधारी मोहे चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो जी। गिरिधारी मोहे चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो, चाकर राखो जी। चाकर रहसूं बाग लगा सूं, नित उठ दर्शन पासूं जाकर रहसूं बाग लगासूं नित उठ दर्शन पासूं वृंदावन की कुंज कलिन में तेरी लीला गासूं गिरधारी मोहे जाकर राखो जाकर राखो जाकर राखो जी गिरधारी
Very nice, Asha.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. You can feel that now. I think you probably closed your eyes and singing that coming straight from the heart. So thank you so much for that. Beautiful bhajan. All right. Last but not the least, Sri Ramya.
Radhe Radhe Shri Ramya ji.
Radhe Radhe. I want to sing a few lines of this bhajan. It's called Kevalashtakam.
Okay.
Madhuram madhurebhyopi mangalepyopi mangalam pavanam pavanebhyopi harirnameva kevalam abrahmastambhaparyantam sarvam mayamaya jagat satyam satyam punah satyam harirnamaiva kevalam saguru sapita chapi samata bandhavopi sa vittaye tasmato harirnamaiva kevalam. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Ramya. Very nice. I think your devotion is palpable and you started loving bhajans as well, which is very nice. Great. So good to see you all back after a prolonged break, I must say. And I'm so excited, so happy to be back. And we'll get into the rhythm again. Tomorrow we'll continue with this discussion a little more just to see how we can, what the kind of knowledge we can derive. There are multiple ways, and why should we trust the knowledge of scriptures, right? That's again a big question a lot of people have in the mind. Why should we? Somebody asked that, okay, we don't know who wrote it and how many revisions have happened and things like that. So we'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow as well. Yes, Urvi, you had something.
Yeah.
You ready?
Radhe Radhe Urvi.
Radhe Radhe, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Urvi, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I can sing 2 lines now. सरस किशोरी वयस की थोरी रति रस बोरी की जय कृपा की को श्री राधे की जय कृपा की को साधनहीन दीन मैं राधे तू करुणामयी प्रेम अगाधे काके द्वारे जाय पुकारू कौन निहारे दीन दुखी की ओर श्री राधे की जय कृपा की को राधे राधे.
So beautiful, Urvi. Very nice.
Urvi, and I'm glad the situation cleared off at your end is that you could sing. So very nice. I hope you can do that more frequently. Great. So with that, we come to end of today's session. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Wish you a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi in advance. and we will continue with our discussion tomorrow. Have a blissful rest of your evening and a great rest of your day. We can do our closing prayers. Anybody who wants to take a lead, Surendraji has already raised his hand, so let's do that then quickly.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Surendraji.
Radhe Radhe Prabhu, Nitin ji, thank you very much for restarting the whole process. Thank you very much. Long awaited. Thank you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you very much, Surendraji. Thank you, everybody, again. And great to see you all back and look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Radhe Radhe and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Your smiles are always encouraging.
All right. I'll bring more of it then. Thank you.
So also of Sandhya ji. Very vivid. Thank you.
All of us are here inspiring each other. So Radhe Radhe and
Right.
happy Ganesh Chaturthi also in advance to everyone.
Yeah. Today is Tritya. What is that? Special Tritya.
Okay. You almost made me nervous. I thought you were going to say today is my dad's birthday. So thank you very much. All right.
Okay. Thank you
Radhe.
everyone. Radhe Radhe.
Hari Talikate Tritya. Hari Talikate. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe. Good night.
Radhe Prabhu. Radhe Radhe. Have a good day. Have a good night.